Hi, class. How are you? Look a little blurry. Hello, everybody. Is anybody there? Oh, here we go. Hi. Hello. Hi, Kirsten, Brittany. Hey, everybody's coming. Hello, hello. All right. I've got an agenda today because this is our first day with the whole lesson thing. And basically, this is going to be how class works from here. It's going to be somewhat repetitive. So usually we'll have whole group videos. We don't have a whole group video today, but those will go first, and then we'll go into small group videos. And we do have that today. So small group videos and a check-in from last week's lesson. So basically, you're going to be meeting with your groups, seeing a video if somebody is scheduled, and if not, you're going to be talking about how your lessons went as a result of your charts, right? So, so mostly, I think most of you don't have a chart except for Cassie from last week. So we'll go into groups and we'll start talking about those charts, getting you started on trying to choose lessons and things like that. And then we'll have a discussion of readings. We'll introduce the new topics from the week that you've been engaged with in the readings and things. And then we'll go back to groups, and talk about, and try to put those into the lessons that you're working on. So that's going to be kind of our process. This week, I think we're going to spend a little more time on the charts because we have, not everybody's done that before, and kind of putting those together and whatnot. Are there any questions? All right. I see everybody. It's easier. Oh, I know, a migraine. That's not good. So what we're going to do is, because we don't have our first group, we're going to talk about the charts. Let's go back into shared screen. And your charts are, where's my, I'm going all over the place. Okay. Are in your content area or in your checklist, either way, in the lesson planning part, if you don't have them, and there's your chart, right? So the chart is going to talk about, this is you'll start kind of over here. So you'll start with lesson goals and big ideas. And actually, now that I have it over here, the methods of assessment and evaluation probably should be over here with the rest of it. Let's switch that. Well, anyway, but you'll work on the pieces of the lesson, as the lesson is laid out. So here, here, and here. And then when we come back, so you're going to work on those, maybe individually, maybe with your group, trying to choose what your lessons are going to be and things. And then we'll come back. Now, the group that has Cassie in it will have more to do because they will be able to watch her video. And as a result of that, they will also participate in this. So affirm teacher's lesson, teacher asks responder questions about the lesson, responder asks the teacher questions. And, in this case, you know, Cassie's the teacher. So, you know, we are all teachers, but in this case, she's the particular teacher at hand. And if she wishes, you are allowed to share, the responders can share their impressions of the lesson. So, why don't I'm gonna post this. It's always tricky. I'm gonna post this somewhere, right? Why don't I'm gonna post it in the chat, and then I'm gonna ask you guys to either keep it handy or so that you kind of know where we're going. Chart for everyone. No. Wait. Oh, shoot. Hold on. See if that worked. So you should have it. You may need to help people who might come in late. I know we have a couple people who needed to come in late. So now let me put together our breakout rooms, because that's where we're going to start today. All right. All right. So are there, are there any questions?
I have a couple questions getting back into the mindset here with the chart.
Yeah.
Is that to be filled out in the group after we show our video, or done independently first?
Well, either way, some of you will have ideas and you'll come in with the lesson, or you might do 2 lessons in a week. So there might be a couple lessons that you've got just squared away, and you think this is the basic structure and this is what I'm going to do. And then you can just tell your group about it, and then together you can discuss that. Or, that could be something that you kind of do individually. It could also be something like you come in not sure what you should be doing and you have a chance to discuss. So it really is either way. It's whatever works for that moment. And remember, there's 2 lessons, so there might be a sequence here.
Tanya, you said Ashley has a student video today. I had one, but if she already has one, that's because I wasn't signed up for today, but if nobody in my group had one, I figured I'd do mine today.
Ah, okay.
Is Ashley here today? Does she have one?
Well, Ashley didn't sign up for today.
Does Lisa or Kaylee, or can I do mine today in my group if nobody else is doing it?
Nobody else is doing it.
Okay.
But your video, you mean your small group video?
No, I did the individual student video. Does it have to be small group?
Oh. No, they're all individual. I see what you mean. Okay, but there's 2 kinds of, let's talk about this too, because on the sign up sheet.
So what's the difference, I guess, between the videos?
Can
like,
you guys hear me? Hello.
Exactly. Hold on.
Working.
Yes, Ashley, I hear you.
Where did it go? Here it is. So here are the signups. So there's 2 kinds of signups. You're going to present one to the full class, and we're all going to discuss it. And Tammy, you're welcome to do that. And then there's the lesson study video that you're going to show to your small group. Both of those are with your tutoring students. So both of those are individual lessons, but one would be kind of full group for the whole group to have a conversation about and discuss. And the other one would be more of a result of your discussion, maybe in the full class, but maybe just in your small group, so that they could see kind of what happened, and you guys could go from there.
So I think if I understand it right, I have one that I did a reading with a student after I did his running record. I actually did a lesson with him based on some conjectures I made on his performance.
Okay.
So I have a video of him reading through that text and me working with him to try to transition that. So I think that could be a full class video.
Yes.
If you want me to do that today, I could after we do the lesson study. Like we could do it that and then I could do the full, like mine after if that would work or however you want to do it.
Either way, I mean, really, the full group videos I kind of planned at the beginning
Okay.
to kind of get us started, kind of thinking that way. That would really give people some chance to think also about their own and kind of, take go through this whole lesson study chart idea. But so if you really want to go on the fly, I'm all for it.
Okay, I just need a minute then to pull my scan off of my email
Okay.
and to position it and make sure I have my screen set up because I don't.
Well,
I'll have
and
to-
come to think of it, yeah, if you want that extra time and if you want to go after the groups, because you didn't know you were going to go, that's fine too. I mean, I just usually put it in the front, I think. Well,
I think I have it ready. If I play the video on my end, if I pull up the video I downloaded today.
now you're only showing 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's about 11 and a half, but we'll cut it off at 10.
Okay.
Because the whole thing. I'm just trying to figure out where the heck I put the video.
Okay. So class.
Yeah, it might be better to go after just because I need to figure out where the video downloaded to because I have a new phone and I don't know where it put it.
Okay.
So I know that probably sounds ridiculous, but on my iPhone, I knew where I threw it to, and right now I can't find the video. So it's on here.
No, that's completely fine and understandable. And thank you for going on the fly. That gives us, a kind of a more of a piece in class, and I think that'll work really well. So
Okay, so I'm gonna muddle and see if I can find in like a minute or less here.
okay.
But I don't know if that's helpful or not. I'll figure it out.
Well, and while she's doing that, I'm gonna make our groups here. We've got Kirsten, Amanda, Sharnay, and Crystal in one group. We've got Lisa, who is not in. Oh, she's not here yet. Tammy, Abby is not going to be here. She's unfortunately ill. And then Kaylee, and then the last one is Megan, Brittany. No, do I have everyone? Megan, Caitlin, who will be here soon. Meredith, Cassie, and Brittany. All right. All right. So I've got the room set up. How are you doing, Tammy?
I found my video.
Okay.
So I just need to get my desktop situated so that I'm not showing you my logs and reports from work.
Okay. And I will stop sharing now. So
Okay.
you don't, so you could share. And so everybody, what this means is it's kind of we're going back to the original plan or the cycle that we're going to have a lot. So it's going to be a whole class video, and we're going to be focusing on
Start reading this. Beginning, this is going to be the title of the book you're going to read.
Oh, I heard it. We're going to be focused on kind of links to the readings at this point, and trying to help her in whatever way she wants. So
You can tell if this is a picture or that's how she is.
I think that's actually her.
She's so still.
Because, like, she's very slowly looking. Oh, there. Look.
Oh, yeah.
Whoop.
Oh,
Okay. So I'm getting my screen ready. I apologize because this is not like my forte, this demonstration on here. So the iPhoto is there. If I push play with the iPhoto and then I have the book up, how do I share the book with everybody? That's the only other thing I'm trying to think. The text that the child did, if I have this
Can you make the video like smaller and put it on one side of the screen and then put the words on the other side?
Yep, let me share my screen. Can you see my screen? Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. So it looks messy, so forgive me, but I'm gonna share it and then I'm gonna put this here.
Gotcha.
So I did some word reading with the students, so I'm not gonna necessarily display that. What I'm gonna leave up is the error recordings and then the comprehension questions down below. Can you see that well?
Yeah,
And then the video, I'll push play on that.
great.
And then,
But first,
yep.
you'll want to introduce us to this little gentleman and this little man, and then you can tell us a little bit about kind of what we're going to see, your plan for what's going to happen and your objectives and things.
Okay, so this little fellow is Jackson. He is a kindergarten student, and at this particular school, Jackson is a high performer in his kindergarten class. And with that being said, I will not say that he is above where we feel he should be, but compared to other students in the class, he was excelling. So I'm trying to move him forward and give him some opportunities to strengthen some skills. When I did his running record, he placed at a level D, and being at the end of that's his end of kindergarten benchmark. But he did that, but there were some errors that were very concerning to me. So he didn't understand the bossy E, telling the vowels to say their name, but he did understand long and short vowels very well. He had some gaps in his sight words, so he would do really well with some, and then others he would just stop and like not be able to figure them out, the ones he just needed to know. So I picked a text offline that had some of the sight words in it that he missed, and it also had a focus on the long vowels with the bossy E, giving direction to him to work through that text. So I had Jackson read with me on this particular opportunity, and my goal with this was for him was not for him to be able to work through it, but rather for me to guide him through the challenging words he struggled with and the bossy E, so that he could start to recognize that he needed to use his long A vowels to help him work through those words. So you can hear him working through it, but you can hear me continually redirecting him. And then he does grasp it. After he does, he reads, come look at the time. There's a typo there. It's come look at the time. And he says, come look at the clock. And then I have little conversations like, that sounds like a guess. Can you look at it again? And just having him go back and does it make sense? Giving him some of those verbal cues to have him start thinking that way. So the video plays for about 11 minutes. I'll play it for 10 and then stop. I would like
Watch it for
any feedback or suggestion you have, because for this child, when I read with him a couple weeks ago, when we read the first time, he read through a book. He called it reading. I called it, he worked through the book. And when he got done, he said, Mrs. Cruz, I'm so excited. That's the first time I've ever read a book. And it about broke my heart because it was a sad statement. But the teacher said, yeah, it's probably true, because she's not getting to the kids and not conferring and doing what she needs to. So here we have a kid that's ready to fly, but the structures aren't in place to move him along as quickly as he could be moving. So that's where I'm coming in. Okay. Do you need to know more than that?
No, but already, I hear you're talking. You're not only talking about, helping the student, but you're also talking about helping the teacher, because I know you have that dual role.
Yeah, as a coach, I'm really working with the teachers to say, I actually put together a plan for our PD early release Friday, which I didn't have to, but I went to the administrator at that building and said, I have a specific critical need with your first kindergarten teachers and your brand new first grade teacher. And I have a plan I want to put in place, but I need you to let me work directly with them and nobody else on that day. Meaning he would have to come up with something else to do with the other staff members. But it's critical, because if I can, first of all, I'm going to use this video. So you could tell me if you have any insight into that for Friday. I want to use this video so they can see what Jackson can do, because I keep hearing him say they can't. And I'm like, this kid can. And he grabbed it. And I bet when I go back there Friday, because it's my first day back there because my schedule flipped this week, I bet he will soar through another text using what he learned the other day, because he is picking up very quickly. So yeah, so I'm going to use this video and this example on Friday to show the teachers too. So any feedback that you have that could help that, because it's actually a real student to them.
Wonderful. Perfect. Powerful.
Okay.
Thank
So I'm going to push play and I'll quit talking. I don't know how to mute it because it's gone, but whatever. I'll be here.
No, that's how it works.
Go ahead and read that to me. Work through it if you need to figure it out. Okay, let's put all the sounds together. Let's do this one together. Ooh, can you say it one more time together? Perfect. Go ahead and sound it out. Okay, it has that bossy E at the end. So what sound is that I gonna make? I. Oh, okay, try it one more time. Good job. I. Let's say it, let's kind of sing it. Okay, ready? Let's sing it together. 5. Do you think you could use that singing strategy going forward? Remember we talked about it? You're blending. Okay, good. Can you read these words to Miss Cruz, please? My two that word is come. Very good. Good. You know what I like? I like it when you just read the words, but you don't have to look at me after every word, because I'll help you if you need help. Okay, good job. Let's read through it one more time. My two come and good job. What's this one right here? What's that word? At. Good job. Okay, so the words on this page are words that will be familiar to you in your story. Can you go ahead and point to each word as you read the story from Miss Cruz? And 5. Okay, Jackson, Mrs. Cruz wants you to point under the words when you read so you can see all the letters. What's that word? 5. Do you have to sound it out every time you see it now? You do? Or are you just going to know that word? I just have to know that word. Oh, you're just going to know it. Okay, go ahead and turn to the first page of the story and read it to Mrs. Cruz, please. No, here you go. And teach words. So this is what Miss Cruz wanted to show you. See on here, you already read that nice, the words right here. What's this word? So when you see it here and you know it, then in your book, you already know it. You don't have to sound it out every time. Good job. Good job. Keep going. At remember, if there's an E at the end, the E tells that O to say its name. What's that letter's name? O. Okay, so what's that word? What is the word? Good job. You want to read that page one more time? Good job. Can you read the next page? Yes. Yes, sir. See that word right here on our list, remember? Yeah, you know that word. That's the same thing that E is telling the A to say its name. What's that word? Good job. And look, what is this a picture of up here? Do you know what that is? A calendar. Very good. And it says, it's a birthday party. It's a birthday party. How old is he going to be? 5. Okay, go ahead and read the next 2 pages for Mrs. Cruz. Ooh, you're guessing. When I look at that, what sound does that first letter make? Nice job figuring it out on your own, Jackson. I'm really proud. Can you read it one more time for Miss Cruz? Good job. Look at that word and see if that makes sense. What's that word? Good job. Okay, you can keep going. I think you know how to read the whole book today. Good job. Good job. Good figuring it out that E helps you figure out that vowel sound. Okay, keep going. Good job. Okay, there's a couple more pages left. That EA together makes that E sound. You were right the first time. Good. Nice job reading the story, Jackson. So this is a story about turning 5. What types of things did the student do, or what types of things did the kid do when he turned 5? What did he ask him to do? Check the calendar and he checked the note. Check the calendar and he checked the note. Do you know why he checked the calendar? See if it was his birthday. Oh, very good. Why did he look at the note? Did you ever get a note about a birthday? Well, he probably checked the note because someone gave it to him. Somebody gave it to him? What other things did they do for his birthday? They ate cake. Good. They went home. Okay. Do you know what another word for tune is? Sing. Sing or
Okay, I'll stop it there because we're already over 10 minutes.
All right. I was having trouble unmuting myself. Ah, that was great. Does anybody need it again or anything? Are there any questions?
I did notice I have a typo on my notes on on the comprehension questions, which I'll go back to where he replied somebody gave it to him. Somebody gave, instead of I never got a note, somebody gave it to him. I probably was just distracted when I typed that, so I'll fix that up.
That's all right. We can figure that out. So gang, so she's done this. We're gonna look at our questions now on our agenda. So first, responders affirm the teacher's lesson. So what went well, essentially? What can you identify that you liked or that you learned from? Or that, noticing.
Thinking about some of our reading, especially with the choice words this week, there was a lot of complimenting, and it was part, because he was also looking and kind of seeking that affirmation, but lots of complimenting on what he was doing well, and a lot of focus on the good stuff that he was doing. Yeah.
And very specific, identifying.
I also noticed that you even told him he doesn't need to keep looking at you for the affirmations, which I think was good, telling him you can do this, you don't need me. So I thought that was good.
Yeah, he keeps appealing. As soon as he's questioning something, he appeals to me to look for direction. I did catch myself telling him that was good after he actually made a mistake. And I corrected the mistake, so I was like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't have done that there," but whatever.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, just because it's a mistake doesn't mean he did good work. He didn't do good work in there. So as long as you're that kind of helps with the risk taking, I think, actually.
I also noticed I noticed that a couple of times after he had said 5 and had figured it out, you affirmed that he did know 5, and since he knew 5, it's not something that he would have to keep sounding out over and over again, but just giving him the assurance that he does know that word, so he doesn't have to keep sounding it out or looking for support on it.
I don't know if someone said this, sorry, but I liked the sing thing.
Yeah.
I never heard of that or seen that before, and I'm totally going to borrow it. So I really liked that. I had another thing. Oh, I was going to ask you, what you have typed up there, what we're looking at, did you have that pre-typed up? Did you make that? Did it come from somewhere?
Well, the books I found online, I looked at very, very specific skills. I can upload a folder that has all those resources in there. I actually typed up that form to go with the book because I needed that. And I just came up with some very simple, because it was such an easy level book, the comprehension questions. I just crafted those based on them, kind of directed him as I was going through. I thought ahead of time what I might ask him, but some of it was guided by like I wanted to make sure, like, did he understand multiple meaning words, take a little deeper. But I have a folder that has some in there, and the website that I got it from, it might have been called Mother Hubbard's Cupboard, if I'm not mistaken, but the folder would have the information in there on the books. So
Yeah, I love that. I'm switching my student, and the student I'm going to work with is reading a level A. So it's going to be very different than my other student. So I'm really interested in it. It'll look more like this than anything. So I would totally love those resources.
well, I think I found 8 books, and this is one of the more complex books because I'm going to use some of the other books for other kids in the room to start moving them. But he was ready more for that. The long A, like he knew his vowels, very secure, short and long vowels. He was ready for that next step. So there's books in there that'll do the exact same thing. I just didn't type the form up, but you could just like use that and like type it and save it in that folder, and feel free to share back if you do any of them.
Tammy, I'm kind of curious, like, what your goal is during this presentation with the other teachers. Like, what are you hoping they take away from this video?
Well, right now we're working toward implementation of the workshop model, and the teachers are lacking not direction, because they've been given a lot of direction, conferring strategies with the students. When I look at this running record with this student, I'm going to show them the running record, and then I'm going to show them from this running record, I saw repeated errors with this. So I literally looked for a resource that would teach the Bossy E strategy, the vowel, the consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel. I looked for something in that pattern that would fill this child's gap. It doesn't take long when it's that, the really low level students. We also have reading A to Z. So I want them to see that I looked at an assessment, and that assessment drove my choice, and then my conference, which we say 5 to 7 minute conference with this 3 to 5 minutes would be ideal for a conference with a student. Well, I spent 11 minutes with this student, but I went through the whole book with him. I could have cut it off after 3 or 4 pages, and it would have been in that 5-minute parameter. So they need to see that it's possible, because right now they're saying it's not probable. And then they're saying the barriers in the classroom are stopping them from doing with behaviors and stuff. But if the kids were reading something at their level, in all of my experiences, so many of the behaviors are erased when the kids are reading at their level. And actually the kids start challenging themselves. So it's just to show them that assessment drives decisions, and the decisions you make are based on the student errors, which guide their next steps towards the conferring. It's like the cycle. They're not seeing the loop. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but they're just not seeing that loop at all. I have 3 first-year kindergarten teachers and 2 first-year kindergarten teachers, a first-year first grade teacher, and a second-year kindergarten teacher in this group that I'm going to work with. So you're literally talking one, not even together. They don't even have 3 full year or 4 full years of experience combined. So yeah.
I think that's hard too. This is just our first year using Lucy. So I think we're all on the same page with like trying to fit in the conferring and stuff. Like we're just starting to like target it and figure it out. The one thing I point out too is kind of how you did this running record and it took a long time. So obviously this isn't really like a conference, but using this, you could come up with like 5 things that this kid could work on, keep it in like a notebook or whatever. And then when you do confer with the kid, you can pull one of those 5 things, cross it off when you did it, and then the next time confer with them again. That would be something too I would think about. And I don't know if you guys have to do this, but we have to do like 4 morning records 3 times a year. So I could see myself eventually when I do that, writing down like a couple ideas of things to like confer with them in the future, and then, you know.
Yeah, I did. I have on the screen, I think it's still shared, so you can see it. I did a letter identification, just double check with him because I had already helped her do those earlier in the year. I did then another word assessment to get some ideas, and this helped drive some of the decisions I made with him, as well as his running record. So the running record here, what is it? I need bifocals. I think it's a level C, would be his instructional. I put a note at the top because, oh my gosh, I cannot see that at all right now. But I put down what his errors were and then looked for something. So I want them to see, like, there's a path here. We had to do, I literally had one of the teachers say to me, this was a few weeks ago, and she kept saying she didn't need help. Well, our coaching's not supposed to be pushy. She goes, oh, I had to know what letters they know before I can do the word list. So there's a couple of red flags that I've gotten that I need to show them what the path is towards assessment in kindergarten, so that they have, and we're going to put together binders. We ordered binders and tabs so I could have them there. And I'm literally going to have them put that together so they can see, like, okay, this is what we did with Jackson. Here's the order it went in. Now set your binder up so it makes sense for you, because next year we need to kick this off like day one of school. I mean, some of this stuff. And then they're doing their benchmarking, the form with the Fountas Pinnell. And when I told them they had to do the comprehension questions, they said, oh, I did. But like how I recorded my handwriting is so beautiful, but I recorded things that the student said and noted what I had here. And when I went to have conversations with them, they had nothing recorded. Well, I'm pretty much guessing they didn't do the comprehension questions based on conversations I've had with them. Well, how did you get them up to a level C if you haven't even checked comprehension at A and B? So, because that's a huge problem. They're just pushing the kids through because they can read it fluently, but then they're not really assessing them. They're like, well, I just know where they're at. Okay, well, we kind of need evidence gathered, and we're making that a mandatory thing where they have to put the student conversations or what the student says in the recording form, because they're just moving them along. It's kind of scary because it might not be too impactful until they get to first grade or second grade, but all of a sudden you're like, holy, this kid can read fluently, but they don't have a clue what they're reading.
It goes so fast.
Yeah. So the whole goal is to help them see the trajectory of where this goes, and to see then that you can work through that. And I spent way more time than I normally would. And I recorded on this form the errors, not the way I do the running record, essentially, but so they could see, well, he repeated it. But the whole goal was for me to instruct him on this specific skill. So I wanted them to see my path of what I was hearing. I wanted to make the thinking visual for the teachers in a way that I normally wouldn't have to do if it was me in the classroom. I wouldn't necessarily need to write it out the way I did on that form there.
But they should here at the beginning when they're not doing it.
Well, and they on these forms, absolutely. This is a formal benchmark, but on these forms, when they're doing the running record, I would hope they're gathered, like use the strategies you learned in benchmarking to go over here. But they're just not seeing the significance of some of this process right now. And their scores are right now deplorable. I mean, it's the principal's pretty much having a heart attack, and so am I. And I'm like, some of it is their structures have to be in place to assess the kids effectively before they're moving them forward. And then also teaching them explicitly based on their instruction, which is really hard. I mean, I think back to my first years teaching, and I wish somebody would have told me some of this stuff, and they're all very positive and growth mindset. So I don't have to go in there and be like, this is the way you're going to do it. It's more like, I noticed this gap, and that's why I asked to work with you, which I've already told them. And here's what I think could help you, answering questions they have, whatever it takes. So, yeah.
But any more affirmation?
I also liked that you gave him a reminder of the words that he knew from that list ahead of time. And when he was really struggling with some of those words, just showing him you know, how in isolation he knew the words ahead of time and just giving him that reminder, like, you knew this one, here it is. You did a great job with that. You know, that was really good too.
And helping him see that connection to things he knew. And, you know, it's obviously a word that is right on that cusp of understanding, and having him see it and see when he did it right, you know, and how it looks, you know, here. And he was kind of looking for it too, which is good, using his resources.
Yeah, I think that was a gap that I saw across the kids when I was helping assess in the classrooms was, and the teachers are saying it, like they can read it in foundations, they're seeing it there, but they're not, when they get it to it in a book, they can't figure it out. So helping make that connection for them explicitly through this lesson was helpful. I think for me, what I did type up that's in that folder that I'll share is this list, the IM5 with the sight words that were listed on the front of the book. So I did that. What I didn't get typed up is the record form here that I'm now showing, where it has the words, but it wouldn't take long to do those. Maybe I'll do them before I upload it later.
Well, and that's a classic thing, that the student can do things in isolation, but not do it in connected text. And so helping him make that transfer of what you know in kind of a quizzing fashion, and then bringing it into play while you're thinking about the meaning and while you're thinking about the grammar, that's hard.
Well, and having the teachers see that, I thought was a good visual picture for them, because they're like, well, they get it in isolation. So try to bridge, okay, they're getting in isolation. So how do you make that connection into the text for them? If it's bringing them back to the word wall or a word folder or a word card, you have something like, look, you already know it here, so you know it in the book. Like just giving them those strategies, because boy, when I first taught first grade, I wish somebody would have showed me some of this stuff. I just kind of figured it out and tried to figure out what the heck kids were even writing at that point, you know? So
yeah, seriously. Well, and you know, and having those, you know, I liked how you preloaded those words, you know, having them, you know, going over them ahead of time, kind of reviewing the Bossy E thing, and then going back and referring and keep referring. And you could tell it was kicking in for sure.
Okay.
Any
so
other?
I just upload those then on the thing, just upload his stuff for you to have, or?
No, you don't have to. No.
Okay, so we're just good now.
Yeah. In fact, I kind of don't want to have student videos if I, you know.
Okay.
For legality reasons and stuff.
Yeah, I don't have a release on him, so that's why I was wondering, because I'd have to get, like, I'm okay to do it here, because my principal said you're not sharing it out. So
Right.
He said if we need to do that, the parent had to sign. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay.
So that makes me comfortable. You know, and I have to say, I have this other, the cross-checking for MSV. When he did tune, I was jumping out of my seat, you know, because, I mean, you could tell he was using the pattern that you talked about, but then it wasn't just the pattern. He was thinking about, I mean, tune is not something, it's not a really easy, predictable word that occurs a lot in those kind of books, right? So, you know, he had to be thinking about the context as well, of the, so and he was, and you could see him thinking about it, and then he smiled and he looked at you like, all right, praise me now. He knew he got it. Yeah, let's see.
Well, and ironically, he turned 6 that day. It was his birthday, and I didn't know it.
Oh.
So I took the book and I changed it and put the word 6 in it and sent it home with him to read it to his mom with 6 in it. So, because I was like, he goes, well, I'm not 5 at the end of the book after the video's off. I'm not 5. I go, you're not. And he was like, kind of like, yeah, no, I'm not 5 anymore. I'm bigger than that. And I go, oh, okay, how old are you? He goes, I'm 6 today. I go, oh, is it your birthday? And he's like, so that I had to fix the book because I felt like I offended him, but not really meaning to. So he was so proud to take that book home to read it. And I saw his mom that day in the office and told her what he had said about, this is the first time I ever read a book. I told her, I said, he's ready to engage in books at home. So I'm hoping she'll run with that.
Definitely.
Hoping.
What an amazingly powerful moment. It's his birthday. You bring in this birthday book. He has his first reading experience. That's something that he may never forget. Wow. That's the great life-changing stuff. All righty. So, okay. Let's go to, let's continue with our questions. Let's see. Do you have any questions about the lesson, Tammy? Oh, we can't hear.
I know I have a plan going forward. I want to analyze his mistakes some more. Those high frequency words, just keep practicing them with him. And then I really need to do, another lesson to see if he's secure with, the bossy E in there. I think just getting him to be secure, like, I feel like it's there's probably 5 or 6 other lessons I could do here. Like, even just teaching him not to appeal, like, okay, like, I'm going to put blinders on the kid and tell him, okay, you can't look away from the book. Cause
a great way to address appeals, because some of them are just, look what I did. This is awesome. But some of them really are, uh-oh, what do I do? And sometimes it's learning how to check yourself, so having this like a strategy sheet right next to you, and saying, well, instead of looking at me, obviously, and you don't have to say instead of looking at me, but that's in my little brackets here. Let's look and see how you can check it. Did you get it right? And put it back on him. Did you get it right? Let's figure that out so that it's more internal.
I know there's some tools coming up in our first grade unit right now that we did with the planning group today that I think would work really well for the student being kindergarten. So maybe I'll take some of those little tools and print them off and give him little tool cards to help him have his own toolkit, because he's ready.
There you go. Perfect. I think I know what you're talking about. They're really cute. We might actually have them.
Tanya, I don't know how common this is because I don't have experience with that young of an age group, but it seemed like his appeals, a lot of them happened like right at the end of a sentence.
Sure.
Like he knew it was the end of a sentence and it was the end of the page, and then he would look and wanted that feedback. Is that pretty common for early readers, or is it just a pattern that he has himself? Or
well, it can be a pattern for early readers. Go ahead, Tammy.
I think his obstacle was all of the words with the long vowel sounds with the bossy E were all at the end of the sentences. And it was something that he totally didn't understand. And he's like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing. Did I get it right? Did I get it? Like, he kept looking like I said it. Was that right? Like, he was just waiting for that affirmation because what are the words at the end of the line? Date, home, tune, note, time, game, cake. It was very patterned, repetitive text with those challenge words at the end that were a grow. There were a couple in there in the middle, like play, that was challenging for him, and eat. And again, the vowel teaming. So those are a couple of lessons I would do with him to help him out. But I think it had to do with that spelling pattern, the vowel consonant vowel with the bossy E there.
And none of those words, I don't think, could really be identified strictly from the picture.
That was intentional when I looked for the text, because otherwise they just look at the picture and they're not reading it. They're not, yeah.
And that's his strength. That's what he's done up to level 4, right? There's a lot of picture relation words to choose. And here he's able to do a little more, and it's hard. It's great.
Does his appealing have anything to do with the fact that this is his first book?
It could be a multitude of things for him. He did it when this wasn't the book that he said, oh, this is the first book I've ever read. It was a book we did the other day. And he goes, oh, that's the first time I ever read a book. This was actually, I think, the 3rd or 4th time he's read with me, because I wanted a comfort factor before I did my lesson plan thing here. So I think it's hard to say. I think he's not confident because he doesn't see himself as a reader yet. So I think he's like, wow, I'm reading, but he's not like really sure what it means to be a reader yet. So I think that could be part of it. I don't know if Tanya or anybody else has any other insight.
It kind of depends on the kid. I've seen a lot of kids who don't look up, and then kids who do. I mean, it's kind of a mix. Sometimes, I mean, if he hasn't read all that many books, if he's not comfortable being in charge of the reading and doing the reading himself, I mean, it certainly it's that kind of discomfort can result in appeals, for sure. But it's a good thing. And the whole thing is, it's a good book choice. It was obviously challenging for him, and he was able to be successful. It's the best combination. All right. Let's see and make sure. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Tammy?
I think maybe a general question is just how do you decide like on the wait time before you jump in and say something? Because with our readings this week on interruptions and such, I'm very aware of that now. And yeah, I just wonder how long you kind of give it, or how do you go about deciding when to jump in?
If I'm doing a benchmark, the standard is 3 seconds that they say. If a student doesn't say it, you should give it to them in 3 seconds, because you want to keep them going for progression if they're having that many that they don't know. There's always exceptions to that, because we do have those kids that, 5 seconds maybe is more appropriate. But for this student, he was at times saying words, like, I don't know if you could hear it, but at the one point he was like, for date, he went at, but you could barely hear him, because I could barely hear it in the recording. He was working through the words at all times. Like, he was never just sitting there and not doing it. And I'm trying to, I don't think I had to give him any words. It was just a matter of like redirecting him. Like when he guessed the picture of the clock and he said clock and it was time. So then I said, oh, it sounds like you guessed at that, and look at it again. And he looked again and figured it out. And he did the same thing with house for home. And then I asked him if it made sense. Like, look at it again. Does that make sense what you said? And he figured it out. But I think for him, he was working through it the whole time. But the standard rule of thumb is, like, if they're waiting and doing nothing for 3 seconds, then to guide them. But if they're continually doing nothing, then you almost have to instruct them, unless it's a benchmark, because that's part of the benchmark score. That's how I've learned it. So I don't know if Tanya or anybody has any other feedback.
There are lots of different ways to do it, and it all depends. It depends. And there's a lot of thought that's going to go into that. And we'll talk about it a little more later, but also, but don't forget, I mean, you were saying, oh, he guessed on that word and everything, but that's a good thing. I mean, the guesses were based on meaning and based on structure. Those are strong guesses. Clock didn't include visual, but I think house might have. So that, he's definitely using important things. And then adding in that extra piece that's really hard for him. It's, that's okay. And all that working, he wasn't, he was definitely working. So.
And proud.
Yeah. I have had kids that take literally 2 minutes between words and things, but they are reading and rereading and doing a lot in their head at upper levels, not at these levels. You can't do those things at these very, very early levels, but a second grader can start to do a lot in their heads, and that changes kind of how you do it. You really got to watch and play that. You don't want to interrupt the process as well. So I don't know. We'll talk a lot more. I've also definitely I've heard the 5-finger rule. Those are all just rules of thumb, and it really has to do with is it a meaningful point for instruction? All right. Now, the last thing. Would you like people to share their impressions, or are you good?
I think anything anybody can share with me, because if there's anything there's so much you can learn from a student, but sometimes somebody sees something that I just wouldn't have thought of or extended myself. So anytime, if somebody wants to share something, I would love to hear it.
I think a thought I had is maybe to keep him feeling confident, like give him an easier text next time. Like I like giving him a text that gives him something to work on, but maybe like to keep the ball rolling and make him still feel successful, give him something that you know he can handle with less support from you, because you really supported him a lot on this. It just seems to me like maybe he could use a really good boost next time before you work on something new.
Not a bad idea. Kind of to go with those good feelings that he's got right now.
Thank you for that.
The thing that kept popping in my mind, and I don't think this student really needed it because he is really doing a lot abstractly in his head. But I kept seeing magnetic letters, especially with that E thing, where he could be moving those letters around. And it really helps some kids who, need that kind of tactile piece to work those abstract ideas, those two-dimensional things like letters, letters and how they go in words and things. And it might not be bad next week when you start the lesson to start with just for a bossy A word, or excuse me, a bossy E word, with four magnetic letters, kind of throw them out there and say, can you make the word cake or something like that, and then and let him go, and then you can, it's a good review. Then you could make the word bake, and you could start getting that flexibility with the analogies, or even All right, so what time is it? Time for break. So let's come back in 5 minutes, and then we are going to break you guys up into your groups. Cassie's group, you're going to watch Cassie's lesson, and then and all of you are going to work on, most of you are going to work on your first chart, Cassie's second. So here we go. 5 minutes. We'll be back at 6:11 or 12. Probably better. 6:12. All right.
Hey, Tanya.
Yeah.
The chart you sent me for my for my first one is the blank chart.
I did?
Yeah. Is there any chance you have the filled out one?
Yeah. Let's
Okay.
see. That
Fabulous.
wasn't what I meant to do.
No, I didn't. I opened it and I was like, pretty sure that wasn't the one you meant.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Oh my gosh. It's been that kind of week. Let's see.
I understand. That's been my week too.
Oh. Let's see. Well, you go. I'll send it.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Okay. All right, let's get started. And so just as a review, and thank you, Tammy, for your email. I saw that. It's very nice. So if you didn't get it, you know where she is. And now what we're going to do is basically a similar process of looking at either trying to come up with wait, let me share here. It's always hard to do it just by general. So where is it? So basically what we're going to do now is go to the small group videos, but right now, because so many people do not have charts yet, and have not had the benefit of this, you may not be at this stage. So normally we would look at last week's lessons. What you might want to be doing right now is looking at last week at your assessments and trying to come up with a lesson that you can put in the chart to present kind of at the end of in our end groups, so that you can get feedback from that. So it might be a quiet time in your group, but I know in Cassie's group, they're going to watch a video and they're going to do this. They're going to respond and affirm the teacher's lesson. They're going to ask responder questions about the lesson, and then the responders will ask the teacher questions. So you're going to go through that process, and if Cassie wishes, you can share your impression. So spend some time on that. I think some of the groups will take longer than others, and that's okay. It might mean that you've got a bit of a break, but certainly here at the beginning, it's going to be a little lumpy. But so why don't we take let's see, we'll take 20 minutes at first. And again, some of you are going to be using the chart. Where did I put the chart? Well, anyway, you're going to be using the chart, and you're going to have those. Oh, wait, I know where it is. Oh, no, I don't. Well, anyway, you're going to use the chart and looking at the goals, the procedures, and the assessments. Basically, it's understanding by design or backward planning. So you'll look at those three things, try to plan those, and then we'll talk about choice words and the interruption article and go from there.
Where is the chart?
The chart is, if you go to content, at the bottom it says lesson planning. You click on that. And you've got your 10-10-10 lessons, but your lesson study chart is what you're going to be looking at to look at the two lessons that are coming up, and think of the big goal, the big ideas you want to accomplish this week, the lesson sequences, key questions and tasks that you'll need to be involved in, and then methods of assessment and evaluation. Basically, what are you looking for, and what do you want your student to do and behaviors to produce in the lesson?
Okay, and we should be filling out one of these lesson charts after each lesson that we teach?
No, actually, thank you for asking that, but no, this is really an in-class thing. You are going to do this only in class, in your groups, and really it's a brainstorming piece for the week. And then you'll make your lessons, using this as an anchor. But this gives us a chance to kind of review, anchor the discussion and the thought processes around them. So first, you're going to have to come up with a lesson, basically. So the lesson goals, lesson sequence, and the methods of assessment and evaluation. And that is probably what most of you are going to be doing here at the beginning. And focusing on that still, it's kind of still probably clumsy and not as easy to do. And then once And then at the end of class, we're going to talk about the range of student responses and possible reactions to those responses, the ways that we can alter or respond to moments when they happen.
So Tanya, I'm going to clarify again, and I apologize, but the 10, 10, 10, then do we do a sequence of 6 of those and upload those? Because there's a place that says lesson 1 through 6 in
Right.
the.
There's actually 13. I was playing with the idea of having you submit 2 a week, but I think because some people will be doing 3 a week and 2 a week and 1 a week, I'm just going to put 13 drop boxes up there. So you have a total of 13. And how you and so when we look at the chart, it's kind of I should put on it the weekly chart. So this is your weekly chart brainstorming. You'll do it in class, and you'll submit it or with one of your lessons, or maybe both, as kind of background. But mostly your lessons. I'm just looking at your lessons. Just like last time, the assessments and whatnot, what happened, the reflection.
And it'll just be one weekly chart then that we upload to show an example, or
well, yeah,
how we plan it out, or if once we meet everything on there, we might need to do another chart to continue that 13 lesson sequence.
Well, and this lesson is really to anchor the discussion around readings. So you only need to do it in class. But it's a way to link the readings and your student. So we're going to use this to kind of conceptualize what needs to happen this week. And then you might do 1 lesson, you might do 2 lessons, you might do 3 lessons. And you're always going to plan lessons based on the lesson you did last time. So if you're up to 3 lessons, you might, your goals might be the same, but actually you might be responding to different things. So things might have changed, and we'll have another check-in when you come back to class. So, but you also might have 1 lesson and you'll have another check-in, and as a result of that. So we'll just check in every week with the charts. We'll use that to guide our group process. And then, you know what? I'm going to change this up. I think a better way to do this is for each group to create 1 chart every week. And you can have, as many boxes as you need and fill people in. So I'm going to depend on the groups to kind of have somebody writing, have kind of a recorder for that. You can have your own as well if you prefer that, but it just dawned on me that might be, since it's a group process, that might be sufficient. I'll leave it to you to tell me then. You can
Can we keep the idea of having our own? I mean, it just, for me, it gives me the opportunity to brainstorm and think about the lessons for my student. And as I talk with the group, then they can help me fill it out. But I think if we try to compile everyone's on the same one, that can get confusing if you're trying to reference it for your lessons, if that makes sense.
I like it. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I didn't want it to drift off, but and have kind of too many things. But so
Could we just have 1 chart that we make and we keep adding to it as the semester goes on? So we're just turning in 1, or do you need us to make a separate one every week? Can we instead just like add a new row each week?
Okay, that works as well. I kind of, in fact, I really like that idea. As I could watch kind of the development by the end. I think we could reflect on them, in total, which would be fantastic. I love that idea. How do the rest of you feel about it? Kind of keep one going and then and that actually gives you the data from before. Like before I was thinking this, but guess what I found out this week, and kind of automatically has this feedback loop attached to it. I love it. Okay. Then let's do that. All right. Are you guys ready to go try it? I'll be kind of zipping in and out and seeing if you're doing all right.
I do have another question. So if we already started working with our student
Yes.
and like we taught a lesson already, then like am I filling out the sheet with the lesson that I already did in preparation for the next lesson, or I don't know.
No, because that wouldn't really prepare you for the next lesson. Or,
Okay.
you're not going to fill out a lesson that you've already done. So really, in this time, you would be talking about how your lesson went. You wouldn't necessarily show a video, and not everybody's going to have a video every week. But but you're going to be reporting back and saying, "Oh my gosh, you know what happened?" Or "Oh my gosh, you know what happened?" Like that one commercial where there's the happy and the anyway, whatever it is that basically this piece is about kind of bringing what up to this point and talking about, guys, look at this. What do you think? Let's try to analyze it together, and using those questions. And the questions I'm talking about are the ones that I back up. These questions right here. The affirmations and the question. Basically, you share your video or you share your anecdotal notes, and then you guys can talk, affirm, ask questions, and be asked questions. Actually vice versa. But so if you have things that you can already have responses to, start with that, and then you'll prepare the chart at the end of class, and you'll do that the whole chart at the end. All right.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, last week you said we'd meet with people at the similar grade level first.
Oh.
Figure things out, and then we'd break out into different.
I completely forgot.
Am I remembering right? Does anyone else remember that?
Yeah, we did talk about that last week.
I completely forgot about that. And so let me recreate the rooms, and we'll do it that way. Just tell me real quick, K2 people, yell out your names so I can click you off.
Quick question, like reading at a level K2 or actually the age of a K2?
Reading at a level K2.
Ashley.
Megan.
Caitlin.
Megan. Caitlin.
Tammy.
Kirsten.
All right. Reading. Honey, what did I say? Oh, reading at an above that. But let's say 3rd grade through middle school.
Meredith.
Cassie.
Brittany.
Crystal.
Kaylee.
And Charlene.
Yep.
All of you. Okay, so that's good. So let's I'm going to open those rooms, and you're going to go in those rooms and kind of debrief with your same level groups.
Okay, Tanya, I'm sorry. One more question.
Yes.
Okay, 2 questions. Do you want me not showing my video with this one? In the next group, you want me showing?
Actually, and this is your video. Yeah, this would be the one you'd show the video to, because you're debriefing your last one. So this is
at our grade level, or do you want me to wait until I'm in like group?
At this point, let's do it grade level, because that's kind of how we sussed out.
Okay. Also, for the lessons with turning those in, since I'm seeing my student 5 days a week or like every day, I already have like 12 lessons.
All right. So
Done?
what
do you want me to submit is the question. Like,
oh, that's a good question. Maybe you should be examining, like giving me kind of weekly reports.
Okay.
So I can kind of keep up. I don't want you to give me the first 13 lessons, because then you're going to be out there 3 weeks from now going, now what? You know?
Right. Okay.
Um,
So I just wanted to make sure, like, I'll submit a couple, but then I'm gonna wait a couple of weeks.
yeah,
before.
that sounds good. Like,
Okay.
you know,
Perfect.
kinda keep me in
Sounds
the
good.
loop. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Will do.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna go peek into how they're doing. Buddy, that means you can't be around, okay? Well, you can have that. Man, you want a hot dog? No. Go talk to Daddy, silly boy. We don't have an ice cream maker. We can't do it. Grandma and Grandpa have an ice cream maker. Yeah. Grandma makes great ice cream. We should do that next time.
So they don't need to buy it.
They don't need to.
They just need to buy packets.
Well, they just need to buy milk and sugar and things like that, and chocolate or whatever they want in it. All right, off you go.
That's the reality I think that you have to face when you're dealing with that with a student. So if you can mic them and then whatever you don't capture, as long as you have it like
you
I
can
did,
buy like a mic on Amazon that you like put on a shirt for like $13, and I'm thinking about just ordering one because he's incredibly quiet. Like I can't even hear it half the time. I'm like I've had a couple things when I'm doing running records where like I put a question mark over a word because I'm like, ugh, like, and I feel like I do pretty well for the most part, but like I've had a couple that I'm like, what are you saying?
well, I think if you have the transcript, if we can't hear it, like you will figure that out. You can see the kid mouthing stuff, but that's part of what we work through with some of these kids. It just is our reality. So.
Well, and I think he reads so quietly because he knows he's really behind for grade level. Like he's in 6th grade reading at like a late kindergarten, like early 1st grade level. Like he was homeschooled until now with like 11 siblings and just like didn't get the attention. Like that's like the bottom line, because now he's showing up to public school for the first time and he doesn't know how to read, which is kind of crazy. But like he's so quiet, and I think that's part of like his like coping mechanism and like kind of the way that
I am on page 174.
Oh, so you're doing well. Okay, fabulous. How do you feel about this book? Hard, in between, at your level?
Okay, sorry. He already did the reading part before this, and then I make him do a reread part again on the video. Bear with it.
Okay. What made you choose this one?
I like Clue Mountain.
Yeah, I know. Is that why?
Yeah.
Did Mrs. Bloom suggest it?
No.
No?
I just seen the movie.
I'm just starting them because I'm hoping to take that test in about a month. So my goal is to practice up on that, the UW-Madison stuff, but I'm most worried about the vocabulary confusion with phonemic awareness, phonics, phonemes, like just the confusion, because I'm competent in all of it, but I just feel like I don't want to confuse that vocabulary, and that's probably my biggest fear at this point. So,
and you need that vocabulary when you do your running record analysis. So, because they want you to like specifically name things and be able to show that you not only can name it, but you know how to use it with like clear examples. So you are going to need that vocabulary, especially for the running record. And that's where I missed my 1 point in the running record analysis part.
yeah, that's my fear, but that's why I do the UW-Madison one. But if you can give me that professor's name, that would be great.
Her name is Kristen Lies. So it's Kristine, and then last name Lize. And she's the director of the Education Resource Center. I think they just hired her like last year. And then UWM also has like a 2-day breakdown of the Y4 where you come, it's on 2 Saturdays in the morning, and she teaches it, I think. And then like she goes through the Madison stuff and the practice book.
Students really struggle sometimes to recall, but they're pretty good about going back and finding it. But with a chapter book like that, it may take him too long to go back and find it if he doesn't have a sticky note or some way to find it easier.
Yeah, no, I like the prove it idea. I think that's great.
So just checking in, have you guys all had a chance? I mean, have you had a chance to talk about your own students yet?
We just watched my video.
Okay, so that's where we are. I'll tell the other group. We'll keep going. Thanks.
The other thing I really wonder is if you
What I was doing, if you saw me like doing something, I was just cutting those. My roommate just left on it's her boyfriend. They just left for dinner, and they had put them in the vase, but they were way too tall. So I took them out and cut each one of them for her.
Yeah, we never go out for Valentine's. We always just order pizza because there's too many people in the public. So we always just order pizza.
We went out last night and took our son with us, and he's 17. So it's all good.
Very romantic.
Yeah, we're ready to be done. Is the other group ready?
No, that's what I was just coming back to tell you, that they are just finishing up with their videos. So I got to figure this out, I think.
Wait, the video? I thought we were watching that in our real groups.
Well, she was doing hers because it's kind of the check-in, and everybody's seen that one, so it kind of makes sense, you know. But then we'll go back and do that. So we'll take another 10. You can take a break if you'd like and come back, and anyway, they'll be done soon.
So Tanya, can I ask you a question about Kristen Lies as long as you're on here?
Please, actually, like please.
It's P?
Actually,
No,
it's please, Lize, but it's
Lize. Okay.
like, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
Gotcha. So, does she start up tutoring with anybody just at any sporadic time, or is there a certain point in the year where she'll start working with people on this Y4?
Technically, she's supposed to work one-on-one with people who have already taken the Y4, whatever.
Y4, okay.
Where did I say Y4?
Y4, whatever. Yeah.
So so technically that's the case. But she doesn't really like that. She wants to help people proactively for obvious reasons. I mean, we all know. So if you would contact her, I think she would be at least open to discussing what your options are with her.
Okay.
She's wonderful.
Can I ask you a question about the assessment profile that's due next week, since you're here? Okay. The format is a little bit different from last semester, correct?
Correct. And it's really the only difference is that we're using that Y-Fort paragraph form.
Okay, so I just want to clarify that I'm doing this right. So part 1 is just like student background information.
Right.
Okay. Part 2 is just explaining what assessments you gave and the rationale. And then part 3 for the MSV analysis, we still break it up into like meaning, structure, and visual. Like each has their own little section within that part.
Correct.
And then each one of those has a short intro, a paragraph for strengths, a paragraph for weaknesses, and then a conclusion.
I'm afraid so. Yes.
Okay.
And
There's no problem with that, but I was like reading through the thing and I was like trying to like make my own notes about like what it meant and like kind of just like for the purpose of like outlining it for myself. And I just wanted to make sure that I knew what the heck I was doing because I was like talking to my husband. I was like, I think this is what I'm supposed to do, but I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
I know.
But
so Caitlin, part 3. Caitlin, for part 3, you said it really nicely. You said for the meaning.
Well, it's because I've been thinking about this for like many hours.
Can you put your thinking, can you verbally say your thinking again so I can capture it?
Okay. Part 3, meaning, structure, visual, all still have their own like subsection.
With strengths and weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. The subsection for each one includes a short introduction, a longer paragraph for the strengths, a longer paragraph for the weaknesses, and then like a very short conclusion is my understanding of that. Does that make sense?
Okay, wait. Now I'm lost. Okay. So for each meaning, structure, and visual, they have
intro, strengths paragraph,
strengths,
weakness paragraph,
weakness,
conclusion.
That works.
Does that make sense?
That wasn't actually what I had there, but it works great.
Okay.
Yeah. But for each one of those strengths and weaknesses kind of things, you're breaking it out into that, identifies the strength or weaknesses, talks about what that means for reading.
Yeah, and you said like if you have like 3 pieces of evidence is good.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not sure if I'll have 3 for every single
You
thing.
won't. You absolutely won't. But it's good. It's good if you have.
I tried to do my first lesson with my student today. It was like such a mind effer. Like it was crazy. When I was assessing him, he scored instructional at a level F, and I was like, okay, let's push him a little bit, whatever. Like had him read a level F text, and like after like a really simple like phonics warm up of just like not complicated sounding stuff out, like the whole thing, and like it took him nearly 15 minutes to read this text. I was like, oh my God, like it was crazy. Like every time he got to a word he didn't know, it's just like he would like either totally stop dead in his tracks or just like use like a visual cue, like and like pick a word that started with the same couple letters. Like I was just like dumbfounded. Like we didn't get to the writing at all, so I'm just gonna push the writing from this one to my second lesson because I was like, I don't know what else to do. School day.
Like, absolutely, lesson learned, right? And you can kind of stop them and say, you know what, we've hit our 10 minutes, knowing kind of in your head, and you're like, and I'm not bringing this book back,
Well, and like because he's in 6th grade and at a lower level, like I don't want to bring like straight up like little kid books like level F, like actual like books to like, so like I always just like type it out, print it out on a piece of paper so it looks like a little more adult. But like after like what would have been like page 7, like it seemed like he kind of kept getting lost, so I finally just like took like a blank white sheet of paper and I just like put it under the line that he was on. I was like, does this help? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, let's just keep doing that, that's fine.
That's not a bad thing.
I know, but like he would just get to a word he didn't know, and like I would try to coach him through it, and like he's been struggling with like long versus short vowel sounds, which again, like not shocking, but like when he would be like sounding it out like letter by letter, he'd be like for A, and I was like, okay, that's one sound that the letter A can make. What other sound can it make? And I was like, he would just kind of sit there, and I'm like, can it say its own name? Like I was like running out of ways to phrase it. I didn't know what to do.
Well, and another thing you can do though is, because he's so fixated right now on the visual, you can balance it. So if he's fixating on visual and kind of panicking, have him use the meaning and structure cues that he probably is more comfortable with anyway. And sometimes you can say, well, that's, I like the way you're using the first letter. Let's think about that and get that conversation into their strengths a little bit. Give him some.
Well, and like he rarely self-corrects. Like usually if he doesn't know a word, he'll like try to kind of sound it out based on like a cue, just kind of get it wrong and move on, even if it doesn't make sense. And like when he does self-correct, it's usually meaning or structure, or like he'll go back and be like, oh, it's not this word, it's that one, and like use visual every once in a while. But like
secondary. So visual is first. He's belaboring the visual, and then sometimes he'll go back and use meaning and structure, but it's secondary and it's not fluent, you know, whichever one you want to use.
Well, and like if he doesn't know a word, I'll like coach him through sounding it out, and then he'll get it, and then the same word will come up in the next line, and sometimes he'll just skip over it, and I'm like, we just talked about that word. What are you doing? Like,
well, and you know, F is hard because that's when they're starting to look through the whole word. You know, they're starting to chunk. And that's a really intimidating skill. So kind of covering up pieces of the word can help.
That's what I was doing with him.
Yeah. And I would focus on him using meaning and structure during, you know, bringing those in himself, you know, just have, you know, even a three thing, like, did we look at the word? Did we think about the meaning? You know, let's read it and let's read it again and make sure it sounds right and listen to it or something like that. Just a simple 3 thing. And then he can check them off and, you know, as he's doing them and, you know, and make sure he's using all 3. And then before you have to coach him too much, because he might know more than he thinks he knows. And if he can use what he knows, you might
I'm also nervous that he may not, because like it's his first year. He's in 6th grade. It's the first time he's ever been in public school, and he was previously homeschooled, and he has like 11 siblings. And I'm like,
yeah,
I truly like, I don't know.
Give him a try. If he's using the if he's self-correcting with meaning and structure sometimes, but not consistently, that's what he's got. He's not going to get any further. Just trying to sound out those words based on the kind of sounding out he's doing. So he's got to balance those cues or he will not get any further.
Okay.
I think that's where he's got to be. And if that doesn't work, but you know,
well, and again, like it's truly like he's a beginning reader, but he's a 6th grader. So again, I don't want to put like some little like baby picture book in front of me, like because that's disrespectful. Like I'm not gonna do that.
No, but there's Wikipedia. You can change the level of it and things. So you know, it's about something complicated, but you can bring it down to a different reading level and.
Well, and like I know like a handful of things that he like has an interest in, so I think I might start like trying to kind of pull in a little bit more of that stuff. But I'm just like, man, like,
yeah, no, it can be intimidating. A 6th grader who's really feeling that failure, and getting him willing to take those risks, but you know, giving him some tools. And I like the idea of kind of backing off. You know, if the F was too much for him to handle, kind of back it off. It's okay.
Well, and since he scored instructional on that when I was doing like his assessment, I was like, okay, that's like good because I'm going to be right there to coach him through it. But like, man, I am currently rethinking that. So.
And especially when comprehension is involved, backing it up isn't a bad thing. That, you know, when he's having to use that.
Well, and he's actually done pretty solidly with comprehension. Like I also did a listening test with him with like a 6th grade level passage. I was like, I'm going to read this to you, just follow along. And then afterwards I had him turn it over, like without looking back. I was like, now can you tell me what this was about? I'm like he even said some of the things like word for word from the text. So like his comprehension, like he's not struggling with it. It's just like when he comes to a word he doesn't know, he like doesn't have the strategies to figure out what it is.
Well, okay. That was when he was listening. His listening comprehension is dead on. And he's really, it sounds like he's really activated that memorization part of his mind. He's using that. That's how he's getting by at school. That's how he's probably getting by at home too. You know, that's a coping mechanism in a lot of ways now when we don't have to do it. If you don't have reading, that's what you do. So he's got to, oh boy, I just lost my train of thought.
Listening,
Thank you. Okay. Right. So he's got the skills when he listens and he can understand when he listens, but he's not activating those same skills when he's reading a text. So
Well,
it's kind of the same thing as having
retellings. Like sometimes like I'll kind of have to give him a few guiding questions. Okay, what happened next? What happened next? But, like he can tell me.
he could tell you if
Like through level F, he was able to. And like when I ask the comprehension like questions that like it provides through like Calkins like reading project,
Right.
like can answer all of them like just like he almost tells me like word for word what the sample answers are for both literal and inferential. Like,
but he's not using it during the read
yeah, it's
to help
bizarre.
him because he's
I
not
don't
using it as a
understand.
fix-up strategy too.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I don't understand what's going on in this kid's head.
No, it happens. It actually happens quite a bit, especially as the older kids. So, where they can get enough of the text to do that, but they're still having some issues with pointed things. So,
Yeah, so I might just end up kind of backing it up and doing like lower level stuff with him just to like get him more comfortable. Cause like I walked away from it today just being like, I don't even know what happened.
oh man, that is frustrating and scary. Well, well, anyway, you'll let them know what it is. But I want to know too. I didn't mean to.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like hijack the conversation.
Sorry, guys.
Anybody could leave at any point.
I'm gonna go check the other group.
Of cause and effect that isn't right in there, or inference or predictions, any of that, they're going to really struggle with it if they don't know how to go back and find the answers that are already right in there. So
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna write that down.
That might give you more of an insight of how to move forward too. If you can look and say, okay, she can, or he, sorry, they can go back into the text and find this. They just can't apply it to anything else. That might give you a good jumping off point for the rest of them.
Because I know after that, we usually went into kind of like started with main idea. Because that, of course, isn't directly in there, but if they can understand what it was about, kind of, then you can kind of go into that and then start branching off into the other types of questions that aren't necessarily explicitly in the text.
Yeah. Thank you. All of this feels like it makes so much sense, and like I should have known this, but it's helping to like have someone else. It feels paralyzing to like feel like it's my job to help this kid be better, and his parents like are so excited for him to get tutoring, and I'm worried that I am just kind of unsure what to do with him.
One more suggestion I have too is like something we all know we need to work on vocabulary, but how to actually do that. And I just watched this video. It was a student I teach 8th grade, but like, so, you know, the reading interventionist at my school recommended, said like, you know, like he needs a lot of help. He's struggling a lot and he works hard. And I was like, yeah, like I'll work with whoever. Like he has like a chunk of like time at the end of the day. It's called core and it's supposed to be for interventions and enrichment. So I just like reached out to his parents like, hey, can I speak like free of charge to you? It's during the school day. It's not during instructional time. And they were like, oh yeah, that'd be great. I was like, cool. Like, but like, I'm still just kind of getting to know him. And I'm like, man, like, what's going on in your head, buddy? I don't know.
The other group is still enmeshed. So we're kind of in a holding pattern still. So go ahead and take a break.
So we'll just see you next week.
No. Oh my gosh.
The pizza's on its way. Come on.
Well, we'll at least talk a little bit about choice words before we kind of go. Do all of you have kind of a direction for next week at this point?
A little bit. I think we were also just kind of as a group confused about the lesson chart. Okay.
The
so
chart.
just like in like the simplest like possible terms, like what exactly are we supposed to do with it? Are we supposed to fill it in every week?
Yes.
Okay.
And with the idea not of a particular lesson, but of kind of what you're going to do in the next week.
And are we ultimately turning it in for a grade?
Yeah, it's kind of a checkoff thing because it's the idea is you're participating in it with, you know, in your chart and your peers chart in your groups. So that's going to be an ongoing process. It's not like I'm going to give you a 92 or a 91 based on, this, that, or the other. It's,
So, like, if in like the first, column, I just put like, so my student, like, when I was assessing him, like, he did well with retelling, and I asked him to do a written summary, and he started just like basically copying down like word for word the story, and I was like, oh, you don't know how to summarize a text, like, and I was gonna like, and that's like a thing I wanted to focus. So like that would be like one thing that I would put in that like column, and then I would just kind of like fill in how I'm going to deal with that.
Exactly. So you've been talking probably about what you did last time. So now what is that? You've been talking and getting some ideas from people. So now you can probably start filling out that chart.
Okay.
The first, second, and last, unfortunately, column. I might redo that, but then once you're into it, it's all right.
Okay.
And you'll probably also, those middle charts, if you get time, you might be saying, well, I'm going to do this, but I honestly think this kid is still going to do this. Like you've got this idea, but you're still not convinced, and you can get some ideas about how to respond and things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're working through filling out the whole chart each week.
Yes.
Okay.
One, across. Yeah, exactly.
And then do we do one as a group when someone has a video? Like, is that when we would be doing it together?
You're always doing your own chart, and you're kind of sharing it, and it guides the discussion. But you don't have to do somebody else's chart, if that makes sense.
Okay, so we wouldn't be doing kind of like you did last week. We wouldn't be doing that for each other if someone had a video to present.
I was playing the scribe for the discussion.
Okay.
But Cassie could have done that as well. It would normally be the person whose video it is.
So like if we wanted to like use it in the way that you used it last week, we would just like fill it out for ourselves based on what other people told us.
Right, exactly. Well, and what you thought too. It all counts. Good. All right. All righty. I'm going to go see what the other group's doing now. They were having a wonderful conversation. They really were.
I guess I've been using this phrase a lot because he turns to me and he was like, Miss Mitchell, do readers like think while they're reading? And I was like, readers do that. He's like, oh, okay. Because like, I was just curious if readers who are reading do X, Y, or Z. And it's like just that thought of like, do readers do this? I really liked that he had that in his head. It made me feel like, oh, okay, I'm teaching him something. Finally, 3/4 of the way through the year.
No, that's like my favorite. Not like the readers part, but like when all of a sudden they recognize that I'm not going to teach them every single thing. I'm like, you're going to make it. It's going to be okay. Like, what if you Googled it? What if you did that? What would happen?
Hey, Tanya.
Hi, I'm just checking in. How are we doing?
I think we're pretty good. We watched the video and I think we talked about all our kids.
Okay, good. Okay, so we are obviously running pretty short on time now. So why don't you take a few minutes and then come back to the main room. You probably, if you've got Nature's Calling or any of those kind of things, go ahead, and then we'll come back and we'll have a quick conversation about choice words, and we'll put off interruption until next time. All right. Thanks.
Of it, but the last chapter, you read the transcript between Bill and Peter, and then you read the transcript between Kathy and Matt, and then it starts talking about the
Hey, Tanya. Since no one's here, I figured I'd just ask. Have you had a chance to look at those assignments from last semester?
No, this week I swear this.
That's okay.
has
You told
been-
me to remind you every week, so this is
I-
just.
I appreciate it, and you know what? It is right on the top of my list of things to do, and I look at it every
okay.
and every day I'm like, oh, but this one, there's a lawyer involved. So I'm gonna put her off a week. So I've purposely put you off a week again. So
Not
my
a problem.
apologies. I will get there.
No problem.
Things around the department have gone a little nuts. So
Oh, sorry. No worries. I get it.
Ugh, crazy.
Mhm.
I'll be glad when this search is done.
I believe it.
I forgot how political these things can be.
I'm doing interviews, but not that important.
What do you mean important?
Like yours is very stressful. Mine is just practicing interview skills with a bunch of seniors.
Oh,
they came to my room today, but they were terrible.
Oh, I'm sorry for bahing right to the microphone.
No, when they left, I was just like, oh goodness, this was bad. I asked a girl why she wanted, because they were supposed to come and tell me what job they wanted to apply for. This girl had no idea what she was applying for. I was like, all right, well, what do you want to do? And she said, I want to do hospitality management. I said, okay, you're going to apply at the Great Wolf Lodge. And when I asked her, so why do you feel like you'd be good for this position? She goes, well, I really want to travel, and I know that people in this position get to stay at other hotels for free. And I'm like, probably shouldn't say that in an interview, though. No.
My husband tells a story about one of his interviews where they said, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And he said, I don't know. I've been thinking of looking into blowing up buildings, the demolition. I'm like, ooh, you didn't do that one, did you?
That's good. That's a fabulous answer.
The future's a little bleak, guys. That's what I've come to. And some of my students were threading each other's eyebrows in the cafeteria at lunch. I have real concerns about the future of America.
Full of
I was
nice
like,
eyebrows.
I was like, when you thread the eyebrows, the hair comes out. That's the whole point of threading the eyebrows. And we're in the cafeteria where people are eating their lunch. Where do you think that hair is going to end up?
Wait, threading their eyebrows. What is?
It's like a hair removal tactic.
Oh.
Like you use thread and you fold it in certain ways, and then it takes the hair out. So it's
it's kind of like plucking your eyebrows.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's expensive, so I think I would have
one of
pulled
my
up a
girls was
chair.
doing it to one of my boys. I was like, what if I don't even know what to say to you anymore. I think I'm done. Bye. 911.
Yeah. Every time I hear stuff like that, I'm like, I am so unhip. I just don't keep up. I keep. Oh, wow.
Sometimes you can see it in the mall. Like I used to see it at Mayfair at the kiosks, people sitting in chairs, and you'd see somebody threading eyebrows. It's not a new thing.
Okay. Well,
I remember that happening when I was in high school or something like that, and thinking it was really weird.
I think more people probably just wax because it's faster.
Oh, a lot faster, and the thread isn't in somebody else's mouth.
Ooh, yeah.
That grosses me out.
Well, this just shows how long.
Think of it in the cafeteria.
Yeah, no.
For some reason.
And I get it. I just heard it's painful, and I don't want stuff that was in your mouth on my face.
Pain.
It's cool if other people like it. It's fine. It's just not for me.
So anywho, I really think I've been listening to some wonderful conversations as I've gone in and out of your groups, and it looks like, and of course we are down at the end of class and we still haven't gotten to what you're going to teach next, but I'm hoping, and I'm going to depend on all of you because we can't go into our groups now. I've got to figure this out. So I'm hoping that you can kind of fill out this week's kind of wish list, or I should say chart, by yourself. And then you can bring it back next week and we can hit the ground running there and maybe even out some of this time. So, but I don't want to leave without at least visiting Choice Words. One of the most impactful books, I think, in the last 2 decades. Anybody want to go back to their books and talk about some of the pieces?
I liked chapter 2.
Go ahead, Ashley.
Oh, sorry. I liked chapter 2 because I feel like a lot of times when I was in the classroom, especially when you're working with like students who are behind grade level and they're really struggling, like you just feel the need to like do work and be explicit and like kind of get straight to it and give them meaningful work that's going to like get them to where they need to be closer. And a lot of times I feel like for me, sometimes I missed out on pointing out more of the positive stuff. And then I think that like doing the Ed TPA, like if we're like the kind of feedback that I'm giving students. So that was helpful and helping me to just like be more intentional about pointing out the positive things that they're doing before going right in with the feedback and how they could apply like the feedback that I had given them. So I just found the questions to be helpful. And I did highlight a few that I can probably start using with students right away. Like the did you notice, or I see how you did this. And I can definitely use that with my tutoring student because he's not really confident in his reading, but then there are times where he does something and the both of us are smiling. So like while I'm smiling, I can just be like, hey, did you notice that the analogies that we wrote down, they're working? Like just to give him some motivation.
Right. And you did this. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. I love noticing. Noticing is powerful.
I was just going to pull in something in our group conversation that we mentioned a little bit, was just having conversations about readers. And I think that he had one, I forget which chapter it was in, but he made mention of not saying, oh, good readers do this, but just we are readers and readers do, instead of just saying good readers, because then that implies that, yeah, there's bad reading and really just any reading is good reading, if that makes any sense. And yeah, just having more conversations about what readers do, and just having powerful modeling, yourself as a teacher, and then back to noticing and just noticing what you see your readers doing is powerful.
And I was guilty of the good readers thing. And then when he said it, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been doing that this whole time. It was a sea
Yeah, I
change.
had kind of a similar like, oh dang moment when it was like in the very first few pages, he was talking about, okay, so say there's a book club conversation that gets off topic and the kids aren't talking about what they're supposed to be doing. There's 3 things you can do. You can be like, you either have your conversation or you can do it during lunch, or you can be like, oh, what's going on here? How can we fix this? Like, we're off track. And I am so guilty of being like the, you need to get back to work kind of like mentality.
It's because we teach middle school.
Yeah, because it's middle school, and because I feel like you should know this, and because I feel like such a sense of urgency for us to use every moment wisely. And I saw that chart, and I was like, you know what? This does like make me the taskmaster. Like, you do it because I tell you to. And so since in the last week since reading it, I've really been thinking about that and reflecting on, oh, okay, like, how could I handle this in a way that sends a different message, gets the same point across?
And maybe puts them in charge of their own learning a little. Is that what you're saying?
Right, like positions me as like a collaborator rather than a enforcer, I guess.
Nice.
Well, and I don't know about like anybody else who teaches secondary, but like I have students like every year who like very much like are like consistently like good readers, like do a good job, who thinks that like they think it's funny to be like, I can't read, I don't know how to read. And like, I don't know. I guess that's not necessarily like really, but like sometimes I just don't know how to respond to that. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know how to read? Like, you wouldn't have gotten to this point without some assistance from someone if you truly did not know how, and you very much know how. Like, I've heard you read.
Recently, whenever I've had a student say like, well, I'm just not good at reading, or I just hate to read, then I just kind of flip it and say, well, you just haven't found like the right book yet. And let's have a conversation about the right book and what's going to work for you. And that's like changed, I think, some kids' perspective on reading. Well, I'm just not good at it, or I hate it. Like, well, no, that's not necessarily true. You just haven't found like the right book yet where you've gotten into it, you know?
And then they might not like literature.
And sometimes I even have a student who they're so used to hearing that they're bad at something or they're not good at it. Even if they are, they can't take the compliment. Like I'll tell a kid, hey, I heard that your paper was really good. You got a good grade. He goes, no, it's not. They were just being nice. And I'm like, no, you're not allowed to say that you were bad at it after I just compliment you. Like from now on, you have to take it. Even if you don't believe me, you have to accept it. And at least hopefully that'll slowly change your thinking, because he's so negative about everything all the time, and I think that's part of what's holds him back. And that could be, I mean, there's plenty of students like that, so that could be part of it, is they might actually truly believe that they suck at reading.
And I think as a culture, we're so much more willing to accept criticism than compliments. I think just as a culture, we're so much more willing to be like, oh, they're telling me I'm bad at that. That's probably true. Versus, oh, they're telling me I'm good at that. No, I can't accept that. That's not polite.
Right.
I see where that comes from.
Especially when you're talking about marginalized populations, women, people of color, people of other languages, you know, that kind of not believing and kind of undermining of self is pretty common. I've got to stop saying I'm sorry. I say it all the time.
I remember like marking 2 spots in the book, so I was just going back to try to figure out exactly what it was. But one of them was when she like pointed out to them she was having some trouble with their reading their handwriting, and instead of just like scolding them for it, she talked about like inviting them to help her with a plan of how they could improve, or how like she could improve her instruction to help them improve their handwriting, which I thought was really like strong, and something that actually we're doing because it's in our Lucy Calkins thing right now, where they're picking a goal and then planning to like how they're going to get to that goal. And I just think that was really powerful, and I really liked that section. And then the only other thing that not the only other thing I liked, but one other thing I marked was I liked how they talked about, instead of reprimanding the student, using the phrase "that's not like you," to kind of just point out like that's just not something that you normally do, and then talking about like why are you doing that. I kind of liked that rather than just like scolding them.
I feel like that can work really well with middle schoolers because they're such like trying to find a peer group and fit in. If you just say, we don't do that here, you know, then it's like, whoa, instead of, you know, like a regular, like classroom management kind of disciplinarian statement, like we just don't do that in this classroom, you know, that like had such a different effect.
Or that's not you.
I'd say you're better than that a lot.
And it's an avenue in too to find out, well, if this is out of the ordinary or out of character, what's going on. It's a good conversation starter in some ways, if need be, right? I've discovered some shocking things with that statement. So, any more? There's tons in there, I know. My recommendation to you is for the next week, I think you've all identified pieces that you love, and I'd write them down on a 3x5 card and just start carrying it around with you. And you don't have to look at it barely at all during the day, but it's a reminder to kind of, because changing your patterns of speech is hard, and you know, you don't want to lose the pieces, because it's easy to read it, walk away from it, and forget. So if there are some ones that you see is particularly powerful, I'd grab them, write them down, and carry them around with you for a week.
I think something else that I took away from chapter 3 was that like it's kind of all a work in progress, because we talked about this a little bit in the when we were in the group, like the little examples of the excerpts they gave. Like I wasn't reading well. When you read them, like I think after you read so many textbooks, you kind of think like this is a good one, this is a bad one. But like both of them had things that they needed to work on. So like my takeaway from that was like, even if you start incorporating these more often, there's always going to be something that you can work on. You're never going to be like perfect at giving feedback or communicating with students. So like just pick up small nuggets and not think like, holy crap, I have to redo everything because I suck.
Because that's so easy to do. It's true. And I think as teachers, you have such an important weight and responsibility on your shoulders. You know, you want to do everything better all the time, right? That's why you're all here. So those are good lessons. Any more? So we will continue this and we will continue our conversation. So if you didn't get some of your favorites in, we'll continue it next time. So finish that book. The idea is for, I think assessments are due next time. So we'll just leave that as the only readings. And if you've started lessons, you can start turning them in. I've got the checklist up. And I should put the video sign up sheet on there, and just in case anybody hasn't done that, I haven't put that up, but I'll put that up.
On the checklist, can you also just like put on there like every week to like update your chart or whatever? Like I'm terrified I'm gonna forget about it.
That is
but
a
if
good
I
idea.
do it.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, I'll put that on specifically for this time, because I think next time it will be updated in class. Hopefully, that's my goal. That's the intent. So, but this time, you know, maybe not, probably not. So thank you. All righty, guys, enjoy the warm day. Hope we'll get another one soon. Have a
Tanya, I do have a question after we're done.
Oh, okay. Well, I thank you all for taking the time. It's always a pleasure, and thank you for the work you do.
I have a question about my tutoring student.
Yes.
So I feel like last time my problem was that we weren't making progress and we're stuck on E. It's been like 3 sessions now and we are still on E. Like we don't use the same book over and over and over again, because he is the type of student who is trying to memorize. So I always try to we'll bring back one old book just like as a warm up, but then we go to another level E book. But we are still on E, and I feel like we're not moving, one, because he doesn't practice and he sees me 3 times a week for an hour. But outside of him being with me, he's not practicing at home. Right. And he's not getting reading support at school. I already know that. So I feel like my exposure to reading is the only exposure he's getting, and he's not necessarily remembering. Right. So I feel like he's ready, and then we'll do a running record and it'll just be like, dude, we're still on E every single week. Right. And I don't want to get too down on him, because we started on A way in September and we're on E, but now we're stuck on E, and this is month 2 of being on E.
Oh, and E is, again, it's like F. It's right there where he's starting to, chunk and break apart the words and look within the word.
He's not doing that at all.
Exactly. And that's what's
okay.
Him. Because that is the challenge for those levels. And so maybe just I know Mari Clay's got some on this, but just looking at covering the words, pieces of the word with some of your thumbs and fingers and things, even using magnetic letters to pull the letters out. If there's a word he's stuck on, you pull together with magnetic letters, and you can make it and break it and take the chunks that he knows and then put it together, and some of those, just to get him extra flexible with the pieces he knows, because that chunking piece is difficult, and going through the word and everything. Elkonin boxes, do you remember those from undergrad?
Yes. Right now, I'm still doing a lot of the analogies because it's actually working. So when he comes to a word, I don't help him. I'll just like write down another word that's exactly the same, but you're only changing the initial sound, and then he gets it. But then when we're like, if it's 2 letters, like he knows the it, I-G-H-T.
Right.
He knows like light, sight, like things like that. But as soon as it's like BR, he can't. And we've tried like BR in isolation, and he can do BR like based off of pictures. So I have like a chart with pictures of things, and he can do it that way. But when I don't know, like he won't look at the chart sometimes. And then when you have to put the sounds together, he really struggles with that. And then if I just say the word and ask him, what do you hear? He doesn't hear the letter after the initial letter, right before the blend, or right before the piece of word that he knows, like the pattern. He doesn't hear the sound between initial and pattern.
Okay. So I like the idea of making and breaking here.
Okay.
I would take magnetic letters of IGHT, light, break it, take L away, put an S down. He makes sight. That's a word he knows. Kind of keep with those, start with the words he knows, like you said, light and sight are known, and then say, okay, here comes a challenge, and then pull that BR in, and then he has to make that BR, IT, and bright, and put them together and break it apart. BR, IT, bright, so make it, break it, make it, break it.
Okay.
It's really fast and fluent with it. And once he gets to get very comfortable with that, and then you have to, once he gets comfortable with that, he comes up with the words he knows. So look at that. Is there a chunk what word do you know with it? What can we do? So that he is coming up with the words, and then getting his brain thinking that way. Also, you might, and then you have to put it into the book again. You have to go back to that connected text and read that sentence, reread that sentence, so that he doesn't just stop there and focus on that word, but that he can use that context, that meaning and structure as well. So putting it back into the connected text is just as important as the making and breaking and isolated word work that you do during the read.
Okay.
Give it a try. See how it works.
Okay. I'm tired of E. I want to get off of E.
You will.
Okay.
You got it.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Ashley, I listed a resource in the chat that might be helpful that'll have some printables that you could use with some of those strategies. When you go to that site, if you scroll down, like, I don't know, the second page, there's a bunch of things that are like in a box and then like a grid, and they're underlined. If you click on them, those are resources that are free. So some stuff has gone to pay for, but it sounds like these might be things that would help you in addition to what Tanya had.
Thank you.
Because there's all different types of stuff, and I don't know, they don't always have pictures on them, which I think sometimes can be more respectful for those older kids. They don't feel so babyish sometimes. So it's print without without it looking babyish. So
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. Okay, have a good week, everybody.
You too.
You.
Hey, Tanya.
Yeah.
Can I check in with you quick about my tutoring student?
Yeah. I'm
probably gonna put this in any like lesson that I get a chance to put on D2L. But so far I started this like a couple weeks ago. I got 2 days of assessments done with her, and we've been trying to meet Tuesdays and Thursdays, and due to like my schedule and then her not being at school, oftentimes we haven't been able to do a lesson yet. I'm really hoping that tomorrow, being a Thursday, we can actually get this going. But if things are rolling in late, that is why.
That's fine.
I still want to work with her, and I think it's going to be good and meaningful, but it's just going to be a scheduling snafu, I imagine. So,
And I wonder, as it got, as it gets rolling, as you said, she and she gets more buy-in,
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah.
get better.
Yeah. So I just thought I'd let you know about that. And then I'll put that in my comments too, as I upload things, just as a reminder. But then I just wanted to debrief with you something that I'm thinking about doing based on our conversation in our group today. It was really awesome.
Great.
Originally, and I'm glad I haven't had my lesson with her yet, actually, because it was very, this is my first time working with a high school student on this type of thing. And I think what I was planning was very, I don't know, too much like what I was doing with the first grade boy, very disjointed and just selecting a text and doing activities that are meaningful, but not really. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And after talking, and Brittany had some awesome ideas that I want to just start with, especially at the upper levels, what would really work with that buy-in, I think. Would it be okay, maybe even as our writing activity, to do some kind of goal setting to kind of talk with her about like what I saw in her initial assessments, the work that we did together, and then have her like literally write down, this is what you're good at, this is what you think you need work on, and then selecting from that list, what do you really want to focus on as a reader?
Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. Yes.
Yeah. And Brittany came up with it, and I was like, I need to take this. So could that work as a writing activity, even though we're not like strengthening really anything necessarily in her writing skills? It's still.
But it is, yes, that would count. That would count. And also, you might run into things like, oh wait, where's the period? Or something
Yeah.
like that.
Okay. So kind of work it into maybe a writing lesson.
Yeah. But I think having those goals, and really, I think that's even more important.
Yeah. And then in terms of text, so obviously I have passages from the QRI and other various resources that would be at her level, but how would you feel about if I were to have a conversation with her, much like if she was a student in my own class? The kind of the approach that I take is finding them the right book, and then like an engaging young adult text. So how would you feel about if I found that with her and use that as our reading text, like throughout the whole sequence?
Yes, because choice is a big piece of this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
having her involved in that, she's certainly old enough to do it.
Right.
And have some, I think you'd have a lot better time with her as a result.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, like in the QRI, there's like, we did a passage, the Biddy Mason one, and like, it was just, I feel like she kind of did worse on her assessment because she just did so poorly on those pre-questions. Gotcha. And because I feel like she just didn't really care. So, yeah. So I'm just kind of, is that okay? Like if I had, like a young adult book that we are doing work with on reading each and every time that we meet?
Yes.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, then that's what I'm going to
try.
Yeah.
Wait to hear.
So I'll let you know. I'll report back and see how this works. But yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Love it.
Thank you, Tanya. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Okie doke.
And it's not really related to this class. It's about classes over the summer. So I've been looking at like summer classes, or the ones that I'd have to take over the summer.
Right.
And I noticed that 2 of them say the times are on like Tuesday nights from like 5 to 8.
Uh-oh. Which classes are you taking?
I'm taking, let me pull it up again. So I'm taking the master's seminar.
Oh, 800?
Yeah, over the summer. And then I have the research symposium class. And those 2, when I looked them up, it said they were both on Tuesdays from like 6 to 8 o'clock. Like one was from 5 to 7 and one was from like 6 to 8.
But a significant overlap. All right.
Yeah.
So who's teaching 800? Is it going to be?
It didn't say. Both of them just said staff. So I was wondering, like, is it like this class where you actually meet online? Or do they just have a time in there and you just do all your work online and they just have a time on there just to have a time?
They both will probably meet in one way or another. So what I would think, I know who's doing the research symposium. That's Leanne Evans. So you can touch base with her and find that out. Let me look and see if I can figure out who's doing 800 real quick. And if I can, great. But if not, I can ask. Sometimes we don't even have somebody at this point because, you know, summer's a while away.
Yeah.
Let's see, online web. I know Tatiana has been doing it, but I don't know if she's doing it this summer. And yeah, there it is, 5 to 8 on Tuesdays. Boom, 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 all through. And this is okay. There's one that's partially online. There's one that's completely online. Interesting. But neither of them say who. So let me ask if Tracy knows yet. 800 instructor. Tracy, do you know who the summer 800 instructor is going to be? I have a student who probably needs to talk to him or her. Please advise. Thanks. Tanya. Okay. So when I find out, I will hopefully forward it to you. But as I was sort of alluding to, this is a crazy week that involves a lot of craziness at work. So if I don't get back to you, don't hesitate to ask me again or to email me.
Okay.
So Tracy will probably respond by the end of the week. If you don't hear from me by the weekend, please let me know and I'll let you know what he said. I mean, it's all we can do. At worst, we have to wait until the 800 class has an instructor.
Okay.
But we should, usually, I mean, those 2 instructors are usually pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because I was looking at them and I saw the very significant time overlap. And so I was just wondering if both classes actually meet during those times or if it was like, because some online classes have a time, but then you end up doing all the work online and you don't actually meet.
Right.
So I was wondering if because I'm like, I can't really be in 2 places at once.
Exactly. And because I don't know about the 800, I mean, the instructors do it differently. I know that Leanne meets during those times and in a really wonderful way. But I also know that when I taught the class, I was able to kind of create alternatives for people who couldn't meet at those times.
Yeah.
I just don't know how she's teaching it and if she can do that. But, before we give up on it, it's worth talking to both instructors. I know in other situations, I've worked it out with people where someone came into the beginning of my class and the end of their class or something like that. And or every other week. And I mean, there's a lot of possibles. It's just figuring out what might work here.
Okay.
So,
because when I'm looking at my stuff, those are like the only 2 classes that I have for taking over the summer. So I'm like, I don't really want to not take one of them and then just have one class. Because I even was looking up the other classes on my thing to see if one of those other classes would fit in the summer, and the only other one that came up was the fieldwork class.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know if you can really do fieldwork over the summer. I'm guessing you have to be in school.
Right. So, okay, hold on though. 800 has to be one of your last classes. You're not there yet, are you?
I'll be done after fall.
Oh.
Fall is my last semester.
Oh man, you're going fast. So
yeah.
Wow. Golly, Wally, time flies.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so summer and fall, and that's it.
Yep.
Then you could do 800. No problem. Thank you. You know, I just thank you for, wow.
Yeah.
In some ways, I feel like I just met you, but no.
Yeah, well, I just started
third
last summer.
semester.
So this is only my third semester.
Yeah,
But last summer I took 3 classes over the summer, though. I really hammered it hard last summer.
Whoa, that is a lot. And survived. So
Yes, I did. Came out alive.
yeah.
And I did summer school, and I had a lot going on last summer, but I survived.
You know, and I think of you even three semesters ago, and I mean, I've seen kind of a development. Like, I don't know, you're definitely a graduate student. You know, the first semester you're kind of like, you know, little like, do I belong here? And now you're like, oh yeah, I got this.
Yeah. But yeah, so I didn't know because the only other one that came up when I was looking through, because I typed in all the other classes, and the only one that popped up was field work that was offered over the summer. But I don't know. I think I'd have to be in school in order to do field work.
It's probably a better fit.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I
So
mean, I have done field work over the summer. It's, you know, it's either very clumsy. You kind of have to organize things with schools that are in, and
yeah,
you know, and they might not be ones that are convenient to you, or you have to organize them, you know, with people who aren't really, you know, administration that might not be working, or I don't know. It's just, it's not as easy for sure.
Yeah, so I was hoping that I can take these 2 classes then, because I'd really hate to just do 1 class over the summer, because that's when I have more time to take more than just 1 class.
Exactly. So we'll just, I mean, let me know. The idea here is that you're going to go talk to those 2 instructors, and hopefully they'll come up with a plan. If they don't, then let me know, and we will figure something out for field work for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.